Okay, hello. Today I will be showing and presenting the activities that I created. So I will start by mentioning the context. I work in a Spanish immersion school. All the classes are in Spanish and they are integrated. So it means that one teacher teaches all subjects except for these special special classes that they have, such as arts, music, and so on. But like the teachers, just like one teacher teaches all subjects during the whole day. My role in this school, I'm not a homeroom teacher, but I am a teacher assistant, so I help the teacher within different groups to give ideas about the lesson plans, how she develops the activities. However, I'm not the one who creates the lessons, so I just took parts of the lessons and I add what we learned during the whole course or during the whole class. The specific context is grader students. And the topics are verbs and adverbs. So, challenges that I identify during the observation time that I was with the students, what I could perceive from the teacher, and also from the lessons from the students, what could I see was the lack of motivation. The students, very in different aspects. Some of them are very active to the activities, regardless the activity, but some of them they have a really rough time getting through during one activity or a whole set of activities. So there is a lack of motivation in certain areas, such as writing or reading. Also, feedback. I consider that the feedback that is given in class, also because of the time of in class, should be improved, and the peer feedback as well. And the cognitive load, sometimes the information is too much for students, so students don't have time to finish one activity when they are jumping to another activity, so it can be challenging, really challenging for them. So I try to include all the intellectual standards. So for clarity, well, we started from specific sounds. So students can identify specific sounds and specific vocabulary that we're learning. So they start from sounds to whole words, to a whole word in the vocabulary. In accuracy, we tend to, or we usually provide models for students so they can guide, but sometimes the models can be a bias for them because they just copy. So we're still working on letting them know that they can do their own thing, they can follow that idea, but they need to work by themselves. In precision, we help out or we try to make that students formulate their own questions, specific questions, so they can analyze what they are doing and how they are doing it. In relevance, well, each lesson is connected to previous learning, so we try to connect and have like a scaffolding event happening here as they connect what we're learning to previous aspects. It can be on the topic if we're learning about the solar system, so we try to connect, but usually this specific part is only language. I didn't include math or biology, just a language. In depth, well, understanding the different modal expressions. So they have a different activities in really trying to understand how to use the the different expressions in the adverbs, the verbs, how they go into the text. And the fairness, we try to include the diverse of different linguistic structures so students can have a whole idea of everything. Um, sorry. In the cognitive load, I also think that was an important aspect to work on my students. So, for example, I include um, in the lesson plan certain questions that will help the students to ask, like for the students to ask themselves. For example, ¿cómo cambia el significado de la oración al usar el pasado en lugar del presente? These are type of questions that I encourage the homeroom teacher to ask to students so they can reflect upon them, or I myself ask the students this type of questions when they ask me. Another example can be when we're working in stories in writing, which is like the most difficult part for them to improve their writing in Spanish. And we usually do it through stories. We said, ¿quién es el personaje principal de la historia? ¿Qué está ocurriendo en la imagen? ¿Qué verbos podrían describir mejor la acción? Um, Now, I will mention the strategies that I try to include in the lessons, and I will show the lesson in a few minutes. So, the strategies to reduce the cognitive load um was the chunks. So I use keywords in sentences in the presentations. I also try to include these specific words and models that they have so they can guide themselves. But it is in a scaffolding process. But also, as I mentioned here, I have or I try to include a scaffolding part, so students can start from certain basis to more depth analysis. And also visual support. As I mentioned before, the group is different. We have different students. Um, so some of them are better with images, some are better with sounds, some are very touching things. So it depends. So we try to include a little bit of everything. We try to include songs, so students uh, like they can match with any activity that we include. And finally, with CEL, so I rely on this image to work on and include these parts on the lessons. So also analyzing the lessons, the students develop empathy as they check others' writing. We try to highlight that part as we need to be kind to each other, and also because we have a variety of context, and also in the lessons we show a variety of context, we try to develop empathy towards the context that we show in class. And also when they are reflecting on their own stories, we try to show respect, and we highlight this part as they are not only learning content, but they are learning how to be and how to behave. So this is now for the lesson in here. So I'm trying to, I will show the way these teachers plan. Mm, so we try, for example, in here, we try to include questions that will help the students to, in this metacognitive process, to analyze in a better way. For example, ¿qué pistas nos da la oración para saber qué adverbio usar? Um, because we don't only want to focus on just grammar and language, but we want to focus on them to really know. Because like we don't care if they learn if they know the word adverb, but if they at least recognize, know how to include it in a sentence, they know that there are more words to work on. Also, we work on bingos in the class. And in this other one, as I mentioned before, we to reduce the cognitive load and motivate students, we work through stories. So we ask again questions that will help them to analyze. Um, and also at the end of the class, we try to do a reflection that it's like beneficial for students. They really come up with nice ideas, and they can complement each other. Like if one student doesn't understand, the other student might, so they complement each other. And this reflection is like, for example, ¿usé una variedad de verbos en mi historia? ¿Sí o no? Mis verbos concuerdan con el tiempo verbal que escogí? So we try to explain these questions to students so they know. So they develop motivation, a cooperative feedback. We try to like really highlight this part about cooperative feedback with our students. So for example, in this lesson, they needed to write a story based on pictures. They were free to choose the picture, and at the end, when they are done, of course, the um, main reason was to add verbs. So when they are done writing the story, they exchange it with another student and they highlight the verbs. They highlight the verbs. So that will help them to improve their ability to recognize verbs, not only in their writing, not only the verbs that they feel comfortable to, but any verb. And on the other hand, we also work on certain projects. In that week, we were working on um, animals, but we focus on this book, which is Los Animales Polares. These are like stories, and they show characteristics of the animals that are in certain places. So, like the school has this scholastic link, but it's nice. They have like the stories, the books, also audios, questions. So we work on this. And then after they learn about the different animals and in polar regions, they start working on projects. But first of all, they get different information, background, and at the end, as I mentioned before, we are working on writing and reading. They wrote about the animals they choose and what they learn about these parts of the world. That's mostly. I just wanted to show the project, but that's mostly how we have been working on class. And that will be all. Thanks for listening to me.